so I just came up 75 from dropping my son off. So this is determination when you literally have been hours away and like hop in and come straight here. So let me apologize. Thank you so much for your time, and I apologize to you guys as well. All right, so here we go. Excuse my out of breathness. I am Stephanie Donegan, and let me just start with then, you clearly know, I have a freshman. So I am a newly an empty nester, which gives me space and time. I promise I won't be running around like this, to do all the extra things that's necessary. I am an entrepreneur. I kind of like to move around a little bit. Hold on. Okay, I am an entrepreneur, and this year in October makes 19 years that I have been running my business. You can find me today's show, Good Morning America, all over the place. Look up Stephanie Sinclair for that. That's the business name that I work under. It has given me a lot of experience when it comes to growing and scaling businesses. One business will be 19 years old in October, and then I started multiple businesses that have been acquired since then. So I have a lot of experience in business. And what got me to running, and I don't even know if this is the crowd to really talk about this in, but really it's election integrity. I'm going to just be honest with you guys. In 2021, I checked my voter ga.gov, and I discovered that I did not vote in 2020, but I absolutely voted in 2020, and that's what got me going and into politics in the first place. You know, I was really disappointed that our elected officials did not show up for us the way I thought they should, and most citizens thought they should, and I thought if you want somebody to do it instead of complaining about it, get in there. So number one for me is election integrity. Number two, the cost of housing is just out of control in Georgia metro area. 46 to 48% of housing is owned by investors in corporate housing. We need to put a cap on that if we plan on having homes that our children can afford. What was that? I didn't. Okay. If we plan on having homes that our children can afford, I'll go more into that if we have time later, since I'm short on time. And it's also important to know that housing prices are up 89% since 2019. So that's how much of a difference that it is. So those are just a couple of the things. Since I'm short on time, I guess we'll figure it out as we go.
Stay right there. I'm going to give you a chance to answer the last question, which those two gentlemen answered. 30 states, including many red states, have online sports betting. What is your position on this? Why let this revenue go untaxed or go to another state?
Me, quite frankly, as a conservative, I'm not just Republican, I'm a conservative, so I stand strong in my conservative beliefs. I personally don't believe that we need any more gambling in this state. A lot of people don't recognize that gambling connects directly to domestic violence, alcoholism, etc. I actually, funny enough, even though I'm originally from Birmingham, Alabama, when I moved here in 2019, I moved here from Las Vegas. So think about that. Las Vegas is the home of gambling, and for it to be so much money coming in, you saw so much more homelessness, you saw a lot of domestic violence, you saw a lot of violence in general, and a lot of it was tapped into illegal substance abuse and people who were addicted to gambling. And so quite frankly, I don't want to see that in my state. I don't want that for my kid. I don't want that for my grandkids. So that's a long answer to say no, I wouldn't support it.
Okay, well, unfortunately, because you came last, you get to go again. So
I get no breath here.
We're rotating the order, okay? So you're leading on this question, and then we'll go to Lance and back to Jason. Okay. The question is: increased traffic builds pressure on our aging infrastructure. Once you're in office, how will you relieve this traffic and infrastructure pressure among your constituents?
Once I'm in office, how will I relieve?
Right. In other words, increased traffic causes the aging infrastructure. Once you're in office and elected, how will you relieve this traffic and infrastructure pressure among your constituents?
Well, first off, just pay attention to the fact that we are doing more building than we are doing anything about the infrastructure. So what I suggest is slowing down building in order to make sure the infrastructure is taken care of first. I feel like it's done opposite because we're a capitalistic society. Everybody's in it to make money. The developers are in it to make money, and therefore, whoever else is getting money on the back end, we're we're towards the end, so I started to say stuff I shouldn't say. But it's a money thing, and so that's why people have done more to make sure we're getting building as opposed to making sure the infrastructure is there to support it. It's why we're sitting in traffic for hours and hours and hours in the morning. It's why we're sitting in traffic at 4, 5, 6 in the evening. And so quite frankly, I think we need to slow down building and focus on the infrastructure first and widening roads, etc.
Okay. You didn't hear this before, but you get 2 minutes to answer each question. There's a timer by the name of Karen over there. She'll flash the cards. Okay, Lance, you're up. Increased traffic builds pressure on our aging infrastructure. Once you're in office, how will you relieve this traffic and infrastructure pressure among your constituents?
Yeah, I think that Alpharetta had a good infrastructure plan. I'm assuming that included a lot of the decisions of the district people. I don't want to give more power to the government with regulations, so I think there should be hearings where the public should be able to get together and they're invited to make the decisions as the district people on what type of zoning and stuff they want to have. I think that I think the people of Milton, Alpharetta, Cherokee County would vote based on what I've heard from them on slow growth. And I think why not fix the roads? Why not expand the roads? But to slow the growth and make sure that we're taking care of our roads. I think the money that Cherokee County is putting in shouldn't go to Atlanta. It should stay in Milton and Alpharetta. Should stay in our district.
Thank you. Jason.
Yes, sir.
Surprise. Same question. Increased traffic builds pressure on our aging infrastructure. Once you're in office, how will you relieve the traffic and infrastructure pressure among your constituents?
Great question, Dick. So for me, I'm the only candidate that has any transportation experience at all. And I spent 30 years doing it. As we talked previously, dealt with EPA, permitting, state regulations, federal regulations. Some of you may or may not know, when you're in the State House or State Senate, typically you're put on 4 different committees. And the main committee you're put on is based upon, most often, your past professional history. So already talking to the senators and leadership running for Capitol, we know that we would hands down be on the Transportation Committee. That's a pretty big deal for the people of District 21. What we said before is that when it comes to zoning, we can't do anything from the state level. We can't, that all goes through your county commissioners. If they want to change it from ag to high density, that's up to your county commissioners. We have no control over that. But one of the things that I can do on the state senate is to make sure we appropriate some of those dollars from the state to be able to come to this district to fix and expand the roads. Again, we can't, if they want to build the houses, they can do that. But we can try to relieve some of the congestion. I know you guys have seen it in downtown Alpharetta, you've seen it through Milton, again, housing development's going in everywhere. And again, I can't do anything about that, but I can try to expand some of the roads and fix the roads that we've had here. And that's one of the things I would aim to do. Right now, the current chair of the Senatorial Transportation Committee is Senator Greg Dolezal. And the vice chair is actually Billy Hickman. And so I don't want to steal his thunder, but Greg Dolezal may be announcing that he's going to run for something here in the near future, which means that the chair seat will become available in 2027. Billy Hickman is actually a CPA. And if you look at the Appropriations Committee, you have Blake Tillery, which is the chair there, and he's already announced he's running for Lieutenant Governor. Billy Hickman, more than likely, is going to try to lobby to get to be the chair of the Appropriations Committee. That will leave the vice chair and the chair open starting in 2027. And we have a very unique opportunity to be the vice chair or the chair of that Transportation Committee, which would allow us to allocate more appropriate dollars through the GDOT to here to fix and expand the roads that we need. Thank you.
Stay right there. Okay. The next question for you, Jason. You're leaving office. What is your opinion regarding Senator Colton Moore getting banned from the House floor?
All right, say that one more time. I thought it cut out just last time.
What is your opinion regarding Colton Moore, the senator, getting banned from the House floor at the beginning of the last year? Do you remember that?
I do, yes, sir.
Okay, what's your opinion?
Okay. Well, my opinion on that is again, we're entitled under the U.S. Constitution of free speech. And if Colton wanted to go in, if he wanted to speak his mind in whatever place he needed to be, then he should have been allowed to do that. He is our representation for that district that he represents. And if he wanted to go in and say a comment on that based on his free speech, then he should have all rights to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie. Surprise, surprise. What is your opinion regarding Colton Moore being banned from the House floor at the beginning of the session?
Well, if you couldn't tell when you mentioned it, I like Colton. I know this is a very a polarizing conversation here, but he is very much a conservative, and quite frankly, anything that is along what is our constitutional right, which is to speak, I am absolutely for. I thought it was despicable that he was banned, and I thought it was despicable in the way that they handled it, quite frankly. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Lance, what is your feeling? What is your opinion regarding Colton Moore, the senator, being banned from the House floor at the beginning of the session?
I think if we go down to the Capitol and make a difference, we do have to understand that we need everybody to, a lot of votes in order to get anything passed. But if you're not willing to go down there to pay a price to stand firm on what it is that you believe in, then you're not going to move the needle. So I think that Colton Moore, he got banned, and it was ridiculous. It's completely absurd, and it should never have happened. But you're going to pay a price if you're going to move the needle. And he paid that price. I commend him for it, and it shouldn't be at all. But we've got to continue to bring people down there that are willing to stand up against something that's not necessarily for the people. And we've got to change that whole thing. And you're going to pay a price. You've got to be willing to pay a price. Loneliness, patronized, this is the good old boy, all that stuff you're gonna have to pass those tests when you get down there. And so I'm prepared to pass those tests, and I'm being prepared to pass those tests, and I'm willing to pass those tests, and I know it's gonna be like that. It's gonna get really lonely if you're really gonna change something down there.
Lance, stay right there. Okay, you're gonna lead off on this question. Election integrity is an important topic for some. What are the 3 election integrity issues needed to be addressed most?
We don't have election integrity in the state of Georgia, and probably not much in the United States of America. We're going to lose our democracy for cheating and lying and stealing. We saw what happened over the past, and it's got to be changed. We need to go back to paper ballots. Who wouldn't be for this? You guys have already heard me say this, but it's got to be dramatically changed. We can get a bunch of the money back in the contract with Dominion. I mean, if we cancel them, we could probably file suit and get a bunch of the money back that we still haven't paid out of that, and maybe some of it that we have. But we need to get rid of the Dominion voting machines, number one. We need to go back to paper, and then we need 3 independent committees that can't talk to each other and have to come up with the same exact results of the votes.
Thank you. Jason, election integrity is an important topic for some. What 3 election integrity issues need to be addressed most?
Great question. Again, from the start of my campaign, I've said exactly the same thing every single time. We need to make sure that we eliminate and get rid of the Dominion voting machines. We need to make sure that we continue to have valid photo identification to vote. We need to make sure we continue to clean the voter rolls every single year of people that have moved out of state or passed away. We need to have hand-marked paper ballots. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Ms. Stephanie, election integrity is an important topic for some. What 3 election integrity issues need to be addressed most?
Well, first, I want to say, I know it's only important to some, but if we don't have election integrity, this really should be something that should be important to everyone. And quite frankly, it used to be a bipartisan issue. It did not become a Republican issue until the Democrats cheated, but that's another conversation for another day. But this has to be something that's important to everyone, because if we do not have fair elections, what are we doing this for? So this needs to be important to everyone, despite whatever you believe happened in 2020, because we know this conversation came up in 2020. So number one, of course, I think we all agree with getting rid of the Dominion voting machines. I think that's something we'll find here. That's number one. Number 2, we need to go to paper ballots. And number 3, we need to make sure we have enough people at every single precinct. That has been an issue, that every single precinct needs to have enough precinct chairs and enough people there. And I'm going to add number 4. It's a little bit of a cheat, but I do agree with my opponent here that identification is really important, and also something to make sure dead people are not voting. That's pretty you don't have, you likely won't have the identification of someone that's in the ground, at least I hope not. Thank you.
Stay right there, Steph. Okay, you're going to lead off this question since you finished the last one. Small business is the lifeblood of the American spirit. In what ways will you plan to support American entrepreneurs once you are in the state senate?
I love this question because I'm an entrepreneur, and quite frankly, at this point, I think I might be kind of unemployable for a traditional 9 to 5 job. But I agree, it is the lifeline, it's the lifeblood, and we are number one, and Georgia's number one for business and small business here. The number one way I would, actually it's more than one, this is really tough when you have a lot of different ways you want to support, but one is to continue to support Greg Dolezal's bill, which is the red tape rollback. It is pretty easy to start a business on paper, but not really. It is a lot of different licensure that takes place that takes a very long time to get, and a lot of times you're literally paying for a location for months before you can actually open. For a small business, that could shut you down really quickly. Not all of us are multimillionaires and have all the money to spend for 4 to 6 months before our doors open. So my plan would be to continue to support his bill and further that along, because I do think there's some changes that could be made with it.
Thank you. Lance, small business is the lifeblood of the American spirit. In what ways will you plan to support American entrepreneurs once you're in the state senate?
I love this question. When I was a little kid, I was doing paint truck with my dad riding at the job site. He became a general contractor. He continued to succeed, and he taught me hard work. And I was in construction, and I loved it. I loved working, and I continued in that. And I became his partner. And in my 20s, I was able to find an $80,000 home that was almost falling down, but it was mine. I was able to purchase that home with money that I earned and put it into something and be able to have ownership. I believe that kids today, well, it's not that I believe, the kids coming out of high school and getting these trade jobs cannot buy a home. They either have to stay at home or rent something that's probably owned by a corporation. That is destroying the American dream. It costs $300,000 or $400,000 to buy a house. What 20-year-old or 22-year-old or 25-year-old can buy a home? And so I love the trade idea for kids. I don't think college is for everybody, but college is really important for a lot of people, and for society, for medical and different things. But I love our trades. People need to increase like crazy, and I'm just ecstatic about this question. I'm all about it, and I think we can fuel it by eliminating get rid of a ton of regulations and promote small businesses.
Thank you. Jason, small business is the lifeblood of the American spirit. In what ways will you plan to support American entrepreneurs once you're in the state senate?
Great question. From my standpoint, this is a question that's very near and dear to me. Again, we spoke previously when I was 15 years old. I started my first company when I was in high school. During that time frame, where we first started, is I had one employee that handled both our safety department and our human resources department. Over the years, with all the regulations increasing from a federal standpoint and a state standpoint, by the time that we sold that business in 2022, we had over 10 people that just handled the safety, and we had 8 people just in HR just to keep up with the rules and regulations. I've been extremely blessed and extremely fortunate. Through 30 years, working 6 days a week, 14, 16 hours a day. And I can tell you that from an American standpoint, I live the American dream. But I know that that's available to every single other individual out there as well. But today, with the amount of rules and regulations, I cannot imagine starting a business today. It's so incredibly tough. Even in my industry, as much as what I know now, I cannot imagine starting that business over today with everything that you have to do. From the increased regulations, from the federal standpoint, from your state, from your county, from your city, it is absolutely unbelievable. So for me, the number one rule would be, again, for the red tape rollback, to decrease any amount of rules and regulations that we have. Again, we need to have some guardrails. We need to have, what's right and what's wrong. But from that standpoint, let each individual dream that dream. Let them passionate it. That's really how you unlock for each family to be able to secure, to be able to live their dream, to be able to afford what they want to afford. And so again, that's a great thing about being in the United States. We are a full entrepreneurial society. Everybody wants to grow a new business, and they can do that. But we do have to eliminate a lot of the rules and regulations to be able to allow them to flourish and go to succeed. Thank you.
Stay right there. Okay, Jason, you're going to kick off this question.
Okay.
It's, bear with me, it's a little long, but it seems appropriate. If you may recall, Senator Brandon Beach was removed from his committee chair in 2021 by Lieutenant Governor Jeffrey Duncan because he wouldn't vote to certify the 2020 election. Are you willing to stand strong in your votes, even if it means going against the majority or even the governor of the Senate? Would you be willing to risk losing committee positions?
Great question. And this is another one that's near and dear to me because when we started this campaign, we wanted to make sure that we did what was best for the people of the district. So for me, that winds up being a very lonely road out there sometimes. Being 18, 19, 20 years of transportation, I was dominated in the industry by most male figures in their 65 to 70-year-old. And so I wound up standing out there by myself a lot of times trying to create new ideas, new visions of things that we wanted to do. So for me, it is very common, and I'm very comfortable standing out there on that point by myself. That's one of the reasons why we decided to self-fund our campaign. We wanted to make sure we had the freedom to vote for the people of the district, what was best for them. Not what was best for the lieutenant governor, not what was best for the governor, not what was best for other districts in the state. We want to be able to vote for what's best for the people of our district. And that's my number one goal. So I have no problem at all standing out there and handling whatever repercussions may have, as long as it's best for what I believe and what is best for the people of the district. Thank you.
Stephanie, would you like me to repeat the question? Okay. If you may recall, Senator Brandon Beach was removed from his committee chair position in 2021 by Lieutenant Governor Donegan because he wouldn't vote to certify the 2020 election. Are you willing to stand strong in your votes, even if it means going against the majority or even the governor of the Senate? Would you be willing to risk losing committee positions?
Would you be willing to go against the majority and lose some committee positions? I just want to share something with you guys if you haven't noticed. I'm a black woman that's a Republican. You may not. I didn't hear any gasp or anything. Exactly. By default, I am willing to go against the majority because I'm a black woman that's a Republican. As a matter of fact, I don't talk about it often, but the first time I announced publicly, I didn't see a reason to announce it, but back in 2016, the first time I announced that I was Republican, I lost about 50% of my clientele. And this time, with Trump this time, I lost about 88% of my clients, which was huge. And I'm not gonna fool you, it was hard, that's a lot. But I stand on my morals, I stand on my ethics. I think if I don't have that, I don't have anything. And also, I'm kind of rebellious. How dare you tell me that I can't stand for what I stand for? I dig my heels in because I'm going to stand for what's right regardless. If that means being kicked off a committee, if that means being on the governor's bad side, whatever that means, I am going to stand for what's right every single time. As a matter of fact, if I was going to do what other people said to do, I wouldn't be in this election because I was told that if I continued to run, that I would not have a career in Georgia. And you see me still standing here. So that's your answer. Thank you.
Lance, if you may recall, Senator Brandon Beach was removed from his committee chair position in 2021 by the then Lieutenant Governor Duncan because he wouldn't vote to certify the 2020 election. Are you willing to stand strong in your votes, even if it means going against the majority or even the governor of the Senate? Would you be willing to risk losing committee positions?
You know, I'm not even questioning whether or not Brandon Beach would have made that decision if he didn't have Trump on speed dial, because he already knew him. So I'm not questioning whether he would have or would not have made that decision, but I can tell you that it'll be a lot tougher for me or anybody on this stage to make that decision not having Trump's backing, because everybody knew he did, everybody knew him, and so he had that behind him. I don't have Trump's number on speed dial yet, but But if that pressure comes, I know that's going to get it's going to get a lot realer to make those decisions once we're down there at the Capitol building than to say that on stage to you guys. And I'm not questioning their answer or their integrity or even signaling that they're not being honest with you. But I can tell you that kind of pressure is going to get real, and it's going to get really, and you're going to have to be able to stand up to ugly things, moments like that, and similar moments like that without Trump's cell phone.
You're right there. Okay, next question you're leading off on is, how do you plan to keep crime down once you're in office? Well, I
think crime is something that is conflated by, it starts with I heard a pastor say one time, you can't legislate morality. I think it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. We vote on laws that govern integrity and morality in our government. You cannot go into a gas station and murder somebody and just go home and not plan on the cops showing up. So, we have to get back to our moral code that comes from God. And that comes from a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. If you don't have any foundation in that, as many people are as in this room as how many opinions on morality we have. We have to go to God for morality and find out what the truth is and get him back in our government, back in our schools, and back in our society, and he will change the problems that we're having. I mean, if we continue to kick God out of this deal, we'll go all the way to not even knowing what we're talking about. We're already there. He hands people over to a debased mind that reject him. Like we're just confused. And that's what you're seeing with gender. That's what you're seeing with radical promotion of abortion. That's what you're seeing with all the insanity, the indecisiveness, the fighting, the vitriol, the infighting in the Republican Party. We got to get single-minded again about the truth. And God will back that up. You got to be willing to stand up against some things that are wicked and have the hill. We got to take the hill back by standing firm. And it'll cost you something. And he's going to call men and women forth to do that, but you're going to pay a price to do it. You got. I know that when I go down there, it's not going to be just Mr. Popular every day. And that's what you got to be ready for and prepared for. So.
Thank you. Okay. Jason.
Yes, sir.
How do you plan to keep crime down once you're in elected office?
Yeah, great question. I've always been a fully supporter of public safety. I know my family has been. My family's been. My grandfather, and my father both were combat veterans. My grandfather was in World War II. My dad was in Vietnam, and a lot of my family members have served in the military capacity as well. And so my family's always been extremely close to us, and I've always been a full supporter of public safety. So for me, I want to make sure we continue to fund our public safety, our police departments, the sheriff departments. And we want to make sure that we continue to prosecute any individuals that break the law to the fullest extent of the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie, how do you plan to keep crime down once you're in elected office?
Okay. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking. Actually, I don't know how quickly you did that. Quite frankly, I absolutely support making sure our police officers and our sheriffs are fully funded, but also something that I think we don't touch on a lot, and maybe I shouldn't even say it, but hey, here we are. Ensuring crime goes up when we have public transportation, more public transportation coming into areas, and this has been a big conversation, not just here, but in Cherokee County as well. And I quite frankly am not a supporter of public transportation or more public transportation coming here. So on top of making sure that we are fully funded, really overfunded, as far as our public safety is concerned, I would absolutely say ensuring that no more public transportation is coming here. I don't know if anyone else has noticed. I feel like since the pandemic, the last 3 or 4 years, I'm seeing more and more, is the word vagrants, like, you guys know what I'm talking about, random people just kind of hanging around here in Milton. I live here in Milton and Alpharetta. And I started asking questions on why, and I was told it was because of the busing system. And then also I was told that Atlanta's busing people out here. So as state senator, we need to put our foot down on that. There is no reason Atlanta should be allowed to bring, I shouldn't say this, but Atlanta should not be able to bring the homeless and just drop them off and bring people and just drop them off with nowhere to go. We don't have any homeless shelters. We don't have any